Something unusual is happening in one of the most stable, comfortable, and prosperous countries on earth. Germans are leaving. Not a few, not a trickle, millions of them. People who have free healthcare, free university education, 6 weeks of paid vacation, strong labor protections, and some of the best public infrastructure in the world, are packing their bags and moving to America. A country with no guaranteed vacation days, medical bills that can bankrupt a family overnight, and a cost of living that makes even high earners sweat. And the numbers keep climbing. So the question that should be stopping you in your tracks right now is this: what do they know that most people don't? Germany is not a country people typically leave out of desperation. This isn't a story about poverty, conflict, or lack of opportunity. Germany has an unemployment rate that consistently sits below 6%. Its cities are clean. Its trains run on time. Its social safety net is the envy of most of the world. When a German decides to leave, it's not because they have no choice. It's because something is pulling them somewhere else so powerfully that they are willing to give all of that up. And increasingly, that somewhere is America. Between 2010 and 2023, over 300,000 Germans officially registered as immigrants to the United States. But that number only captures people who formally registered. Researchers of the German Federal Statistical Office believe the real figure, when you include those who move quietly, is significantly higher. Some estimates push it past 600,000 over the last 2 decades. And the pace is accelerating. Applications for American visas from German nationals have risen sharply since 2020, with the EB1 and O1 visa categories, reserved for people with extraordinary skills and achievements, seeing some of their highest German applicant numbers on record. These are not people running from failure. These are doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs, researchers, and artists, some of Germany's best, choosing to go. So what is happening? To understand this, you have to understand what Germany has quietly become over the last 15 years. On the surface, Germany still looks like the gold standard of European stability. But underneath that polished exterior, something has been shifting. A 2023 survey conducted by the Allensbach Institute, one of Germany's most respected polling organizations, found that only 23% of Germans believed that children would have a better life than they did. 23%. In a country that rebuilt itself from total destruction after World War II and became the largest economy in Europe, only 1 in 4 people believes the next generation will do better. That number is a quiet earthquake. Germans have a word, Aufstieg, which means upward movement, climbing, rising. For decades it defined the national spirit. Work hard, follow the system, trust the institutions, and life will improve. But that belief is eroding. And when people stop believing in the upward climb, they start looking for somewhere that still offers it. And America, for all its chaos and contradictions, still sells that feeling better than anywhere else on earth. Talk to Germans who have made the move and a pattern emerges almost immediately. It's not just about money, though money is part of it. It's about something harder to measure, the feeling of possibility. Thomas left Munich in 2019. He was 34, working as a software engineer at a solid company, earning a comfortable salary. By German standards, he was doing well. By any reasonable measure, his life was stable and secure. But stable and secure started to feel like a ceiling rather than a floor. He moved to Austin, Texas. Within 2 years, his salary had more than doubled. He had equity in a startup. He was working with people from 20 different countries, moving fast, building things. He told a German newspaper in 2022 that the difference wasn't just financial. It was atmospheric. In Germany, he said, if you want to do something differently, you spend 6 months explaining why. In America, you just do it and see what happens. That sentiment comes up again and again. Germany is a country that has perfected the art of managing what already exists. America is still, at least in certain pockets, a country that believes something new can always be built. And for a certain type of person, ambitious, restless, willing to trade security for speed, that difference is everything. But here's where the story gets more complicated. Because not everyone who makes this move finds what they were looking for. And the gap between expectation and reality is where the most honest and important part of this story lives. The Germans who struggle most in America are almost always the ones who underestimated one thing, the sheer psychological weight of living without a safety net. In Germany, if you lose your job, The state catches you. Unemployment benefits can last up to 2 years. Healthcare continues. Your children's education remains free. The system was designed deliberately to make the floor of life something you can actually stand on without fear. In America, that floor disappears the moment your employment does. Healthcare is tied to your job in most cases. A single serious medical event can cost tens of thousands of dollars even with insurance. One study from the American Journal of Medicine found that 66.5% of all personal bankruptcies in the United States are tied to medical issues. Germans who move here and then face a health crisis, or watch a neighbor or colleague face one, often describe it as a genuine culture shock that no amount of research fully prepares you for. Claudia moved from Hamburg to Chicago in 2017 with her husband and 2 young children. She was excited, optimistic, and thoroughly researched. She had read about the healthcare costs. She thought she understood. Then her youngest son needed surgery. The surgery itself went well. What followed was 4 months of insurance negotiations, billing disputes, and out-of-pocket costs that eventually reached $14,000 even after her husband's employer-provided insurance paid its portion. I understood the system intellectually, she said, but understanding it and living it are completely different things. There were nights I just sat at the kitchen table staring at the bills and couldn't believe this was how a wealthy country operates. She and her family are still in Chicago. They don't regret the move, but she wants anyone considering this to understand. The security you had in Germany was worth something real, and you will feel its absence in ways you didn't anticipate. Here's something that almost nobody talks about publicly but comes up in private conversations with German expats constantly. America is lonelier than it looks. Germany has a reputation for being reserved, even cold with strangers. And that reputation has some truth to it. Germans tend to take longer to form friendships, but when they do, those friendships run deep and last decades. There's a warmth beneath the surface that takes time to reach, but it's genuine. America presents the opposite experience. Americans are extraordinarily warm on the surface. Friendly, open, enthusiastic. A stranger will compliment your jacket, ask about your day, and smile like you've known each other for years. For Germans arriving here, the first few months often feel socially electric. Everyone seems so welcoming. Then, slowly, the realization sets in. The warmth is often wide but not deep. How are you is a greeting, not a question. The friendliness that felt like the beginning of connection often turns out to be the whole of it. Building genuine, lasting friendships as an adult in America, especially as a foreign adult without a pre-existing network, can be profoundly difficult. Studies on social isolation in the United States, including a major 2023 report from the U.S. Surgeon General, found that approximately half of American adults report measurable levels of loneliness. Half. For Germans used to a slower but more substantive social culture, this can be disorienting in a way that takes years to fully articulate. Marcus, a German architect who moved to Los Angeles in 2015, described it this way. I had hundreds of acquaintances within a year. People I'd been to parties with, worked alongside, had long conversations with. And then one day I realized I couldn't call any of them at midnight if something was wrong. Not a single one. That's when I understood the difference between American friendly and actual friendship. And yet, the Germans keep coming. Because America gives something back that is genuinely difficult to find anywhere else. And it's something that people who have never left their home country often underestimate. Space. Physical and psychological space. America is enormous. Its landscapes are staggering. Deserts that run to every horizon, mountains that dwarf anything in Europe, coastlines that stretch thousands of miles. For Germans living in a country the size of Montana, the sheer physical scale of America produces something close to a religious experience the first time you truly encounter it. Road trips that would cross multiple European countries here barely cross a single state. But beyond the physical space, there is something in the culture itself, a permission to reinvent. America has baked into its national mythology the idea that you are not permanently defined by where you came from or what you've done before, that you can arrive as one thing and become another. That failure is not a verdict but a chapter. This is not entirely true in practice. America has its own rigid hierarchies, its own glass ceilings, its own ways of locking people into categories. But the belief in reinvention is so culturally embedded, so present in the air you breathe here that it changes how you move through the world. It gives people permission to try things they would never attempt in a culture where public failure carries lasting social cost. In Germany, there is still a deep cultural awareness around failure. A business that fails marks its founder in ways that can take years to overcome. A career change in your 40s is viewed with quiet suspicion. The stability that makes Germany so livable also makes it, for some people, quietly suffocating. America says, try, fall down, get back up, try again. Nobody who matters is keeping score the way you think they are. For the right person, that permission is worth more than 6 weeks of paid vacation. Here is the truth that sits at the center of all of this, the thing that the migration statistics and the expat blogs and the visa application numbers are all circling without quite saying directly. The Germans who are moving to America are not choosing between a good country and a bad one. They are choosing between two completely different philosophies of what a life should feel like. Germany says, we will protect you. We will build systems that catch you when you fall. We will make the floor solid and the walls strong. In exchange, accept that the ceiling may be lower than elsewhere. Accept that change moves slowly. Accept that the system sometimes values stability over speed and security over ambition. America says, we will give you the chance to fly as high as you are capable of flying. We will clear the sky. In exchange, accept that there is no net. Accept that if you fall hard. Accept that the freedom to succeed and the freedom to fail are the exact same freedom. Neither of these is wrong. They are genuinely, philosophically different answers to the question of what a society owes its people. What's fascinating, and what the movement of hundreds of thousands of Germans toward America quietly tells us, is that the answer to that question is not the same for everyone. Even within one of the world's most successful social democracies, there are people for whom the net feels like a cage, for whom the floor, however solid, is less important than the sky. Germany is not emptying. Let's be clear about that. It remains one of the most prosperous, stable, and livable countries on the planet. The people leaving represent a fraction of its population. Most Germans are staying, and most of them are staying for very good reasons. But the movement matters precisely because of who is leaving and why. When the people with choices, with skills, with ambition, with options, start choosing somewhere else, it tells you something about what that somewhere else still offers that is genuinely hard to replicate. America, for all its dysfunction, its inequality, its broken healthcare system, its fading infrastructure, and its political turbulence, still produces something. A feeling, a frequency, a particular kind of energy that, once you've felt it, you either want more or want nothing to do with. The Germans moving here felt it and decided they want more. The question we're sitting with tonight is not really about Germany or America at all. It's about what you believe a life should be built around. Security, or possibility, the floor, or the sky. Most of us, if we're honest, want both. And the uncomfortable truth that this migration quietly exposes is that in 2024, no country has fully figured out how to offer both at the same time. Every nation is making a trade-off. Every system is choosing what to prioritize. And every person who packs their life into boxes and moves across an ocean is making their own private statement about which trade-off they can live with. The Germans moving to America have made their choice. The only question left is, what would yours be? Drop it in the comments. Because if there's one thing this story makes clear, it's that the answer is different for everyone. And the conversation that difference creates is one worth having. If this made you see something differently, share it with someone who's been thinking about a big move. And if you want more stories about the hidden realities of life across different countries, the kind of things that don't make it into the travel brochures, you know where to find them.